Happy Thursday, and welcome here to another edition of HuskerOnline Headlines. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple. We're getting ready to head out to L.A. with many Nebraska fans, and before we hop on the plane tomorrow, we're going to bring you a great show here of HuskerOnline Headlines. Before we get into our opening headline, HuskerOnline Headlines brought to you by BetterHelp. Sometimes therapy is the answer. Sometimes you just need someone to talk to, and there's no better way to do that than therapy. Life is stressful. It brings on a lot of challenges, a lot of different issues every single day, and therapy can be the best way out of some of those tough days that you face. And, you know, if you've never tried BetterHelp, it's super easy. You do it all anonymously at home. You're able to match yourself with the right person to talk to. And you can do it on your time when it works for you. That's the most important thing. And we got a great deal for HuskerOnline viewers here. If you've never tried BetterHelp.com, check them out there on their website at BetterHelp.com/Husker. And we're going to give you 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/Husker to get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. Again, that's BetterHelp.com/Husker. Okay. Let's get into it, Stephen M. Sipple. Headline number one, Nebraska will unveil a new look offense at the LA Coliseum this week. What are you looking to see?
I mean, something that gets Dylan Raiola in a rhythm early, as we kind of covered that on Tuesday on the radio show. That's one thing. I think you'll see some two-back sets, more two-back sets. You could see, I think, more Fedoni in the form of an H-back in the backfield. I think that's one thing you've seen from Holgorsen, like a tight end / slot. You could also see Carter Nelson or even Borkature in that role. I'd say stack formations and bunch sets. I think stack formations and bunch sets are something that's the sort of thing, Sean, that you'd notice right away. Like, you'll be sitting in the press box. You're probably a little more astute when it comes to like the pure X's and O's scheme stuff than I am. And I think there'll be stuff right away that you say, oh yeah, we haven't seen that. Yeah, of course there's going to be.
Now,
they're not going to come out and run
Riley,
the same stuff.
Lincoln Riley kind of downplayed it a little bit and said they're not going to be able to do too much different this late in the year.
No, but there has to be something, right? I mean, they're not going to just stick with the same stuff.
No, because what they were doing before just wasn't producing results.
Right.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I felt like the season really turned in about the second half of the Illinois game for the offense. The first half, when we went to halftime and Nebraska was beating Illinois, Raiola and the offense looked incredible. You're like, wow, if they play like this, they're going to win a lot of games.
Then a formula developed.
Illinois pulled out the win. Even Purdue kind of changed things up and gave Nebraska fits. It was a 0-0 first half. Rutgers, as we know, held Raiola 2-9 passing for 14 yards in the second half. And they just had not been able to find that same rhythm that we had seen maybe for the first 4 games of the year.
Wouldn't you say that teams are – I'm not saying there's a lot of blitzing, but I think teams are picking their spots very well with pressure. There's a lot of man coverage on Nebraska on the perimeter. Those are two kind of staple elements that defenses have done. I don't want to go too far into the weeds because I'm not a coordinator, but you have seen a lot of man. You see a lot of matching routes in the middle of the field. And there's just sort of this formula that's developed. It's not like the defenses are all doing the same thing, but there's certain elements that you see week to week, and pressure up the middle, right?
There's been some predictability from Nebraska, though, too. Even in the red zone, like, they tried that reverse handoff against UCLA, the one that they had great success with all year, to Janiron Bonner or Ja'Cory Barney, and UCLA was ready for that. Yep. I mean, they knew it was coming, and they gobble it up immediately. So I feel like there's been predictability that coordinators in this league have figured out in Nebraska.
Well, and something that you've mentioned before, too. You've mentioned it, and you're right. Safeties have been high. The opposing safeties, they're playing their safeties back, partly, Sean, because the run game threat's not what it needs to be. They don't run inside zone very well. They don't run outside zone very well because the edge, you've noticed, you've talked about, I hear you and Robin talk, and they don't block the edge very well. So outside zone doesn't work very well. Inside zone doesn't work very well. Receivers don't get off the line of scrimmage very well. Now, is that How does Holgorsen? Some of that stuff, the players are going to have to take care of themselves, right? Right.
Yeah, I think they got to win up front in their blocking situations. And when you don't run the quarterback, and we've seen Nebraska run the quarterback a lot over the years, you take away that numbers advantage with the quarterback run game, which allows you to be able to play that safety back.
It bailed Nebraska out a lot last year. The quarterback run game bailed Nebraska.
I mean, how many over the years, like when Martinez, pick your Martinez, pick your Armstrong,
Lord,
when they're 3rd and 13 and they ran out of it.
Right. Just to hike, snap it to the quarterback and run.
But you can't survive on that either.
No.
I mean,
I totally agree, Sean.
It might keep you alive, but you can't survive.
So Nebraska, again, the headline is Nebraska unveils this new look offense. Everybody's wondering. And we don't know exactly what it'll look like. I totally agree with you. They can't change everything in a week. I just think you're going to see some evidence of Holgorsen, obviously. He's got to come in and change some things.
Do you think he'll be in the booth or the sideline?
Oh, good question.
I think he'll be in the booth.
Okay, that's one question. And do you think? And he surely will be in Dylan's ear, right?
On the headset. This is why I think he'll be in the booth. He doesn't really know the players well enough to need to be down there on the sidelines to have those conversations. I think he'll be more valuable up top, seeing things better.
That is your opinion.
That's my opinion.
My opinion is it might make sense for him to be down there with Dylan on the sideline and working directly so he can look in Dylan's eyes.
It's been a long time since he's been on in a booth when you think about it, because West Virginia and Houston, he's been a sideline head coach.
We don't know. And we're a little different on that. I would prefer him to be on the sideline. To have hands on, look in Dylan's eyes. There's some confusion with Dylan in recent games. It seems like his eyes are all over the place. I think it would help Dylan settle down with him down there. That's just my opinion.
Well, Glenn Thomas is on the sidelines right now.
Right. Glenn Thomas. No, God, we've exposed ourselves.
Well, Satterfield and McGuire in the booth.
Yeah. I don't know where Glenn Thomas is.
I think Glenn was down below.
So that affects the conversation. I mean, maybe that they feel good enough with Glenn Thomas down there. I don't know. But I don't know. I don't want to talk about something.
Holgorsen is not a position coach, though. He is a coordinator.
Right.
And Marcus Satterfield remains the tight ends coach.
Right.
So there's a lot to that conversation, how this is all put together, because nobody has left the building. I mean, it's the same people plus one.
Don't you think that going forward, Sean, not want to get too far off track here, but I wouldn't give Holgorsen, if he stays here as the offensive coordinator, I wouldn't give him a position. You don't need to anymore, do you?
I don't think so. I mean, because, okay, think about this. You technically have 3 people now coaching tight ends. You have Marcus Satterfield, tight ends coach,
right.
Keith Williams, assistant tight ends coach, Josh Martin, who was last year's tight ends coach.
Right. You don't need,
I mean, I don't know what Josh Martin's analyst title is now, but it's that alone is like unique that they have that many people that have tight end coaching experience on the staff. But with the unlimited coaching rule and the ability to have, assistant position coaches, you're right. I think Holgorsen makes much better sense to be in this role.
Josh Martin is an assistant special teams coach now.
So he went off of tight ends back to special teams.
Right. And you're right. Keith Williams is
the assistant tight ends.
They just list him as tight ends coach, but yeah, he's just technically, I guess he would be the assistant tight ends coach. But I don't think going forward, there's a necessity to have your coordinators coach a position like there used to be.
No. And you're not bound by the rule of 10.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to be 9.
I wonder if Holgorsen would even think about who we're talking about, a 2-time head coach, 2-time, 2 different schools. Would he want to coach a position at this point in his life? Well,
and it also makes you just wonder, like, with a alpha like this in there, like, how much of, Matt Rule has to kind of step back and let him go. I mean, am I right by saying?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. The dynamic changes a little bit. It's not, the dynamic, I guess the dynamic changes just how it, listen, I don't want to get out over our skis.
This is not like John Papuchis running the defense over Bo Pelini. Like when we all knew Bo Pelini was still running that defense.
Right. This is a much different.
Like dynamic. This is a coordinator that's going to run this show.
Right. where if Rule would get too far down the road of involvement, you might hear a Holgorsen saying, I got this. I got this. There are coordinators. We've had this conversation. I didn't know this until a few years ago. There are coordinators that will turn down jobs where the head coach says, I'm going to be involved. They just say, no, okay, well, I'm not going to do it. That reason will drive some coordinators away, that they want autonomy. If the head coach says, no, I'll be helping. No, I'm not going to do this.
Where then at one point, Nebraska for over 30 years had the same offensive coordinator, Tom Osborne.
Yeah.
He called every single play from like 69 to 97.
Yeah. Wow. 4 national title teams. Is that right? 5 national title teams. Sean, he called plays for 5 national title teams.
When Osborne was the head coach, they didn't even have a coordinator title on the staff.
No, I mean, he was the guy.
He was, and then McBride was the D coordinator. I mean, but like that was how defined it was back then. Osborne was the head coach and the coordinator. But in this situation, you've got a former head coach. I'm intrigued. No matter what happens.
Oh yeah.
All right.
So are the fans. You've seen it. You've been out. Fans are.
We had packed houses in Beatrice and Fremont.
Right, because the fans are intrigued. I mean, in that sense, like there's a lot of pro and con on this. You're hearing a lot. Like some people think it's a desperate move. Some people say it's a proactive move. It is a move that has generated excitement in the fan base. Well, did it generate excitement on the team? I don't know. Well, I guess.
And there's always this thought, like people think like Matt Rule should have acted sooner. I don't know how much. I mean, they were 5-1 after the first bye,
right?
So like, what was soon? I mean, what was soon enough? Like,
I don't know. That's
and you can't pin last year on Satterfield.
No, you can't. Not really.
I mean, if you're being
not
all the way.
No, it's just Jeff Sims. That's the thing that you use. Like that he had his imprints all over that,
But all right, we'll see what this looks like before we go to headline number 2. HuskerOnline headlines brought to you by Bauer Underground. Bauer Underground serves as support for local contractors and utility companies within the state of Nebraska. Bauer Underground gives 100% to assure quality control for their customers and the excellent management skills to supervise each and every job that the state of Nebraska contracts for. The company and its employees are accustomed to deadline pressures on construction jobs, and they take tremendous pride in meeting the deadline requirements while maintaining excellent workmanship on each job. Strategy is at the heart of what they do. For more than 25 years, their reputation has been built on these basic principles, which include quality workmanship, on-time job completion, hiring and retaining high-quality personnel, utilizing the latest earth-moving techniques, maintaining safety for their customers and employees. Well, a lot more, obviously, from Bauer throughout the year, but we're thankful for their support of Husker Online. You can check them out at BauerUnderground.com to read more about what they do and who they've worked with. They have locations in Lincoln, Omaha, Kearney, and Norfolk. Thanks to Bauer Underground for sponsoring us here on Husker Online Headlines. All right, headline number 2, all eyes on QB Dylan Raiola, and it was confirmed by head coach Matt Rule that Dylan Raiola has practiced this week. He is trending to obviously start and be the guy, which neither one of us are surprised by that development. They will take 4 quarterbacks to LA. No surprise there. Heinrich Harburg, who's gotten a lot of reps the last 2 weeks, along with Daniel Kalen, who's the number 3, and then Jalen Gramstad, who's also their play signaler from the sidelines.
Right. You want to see Dylan kind of pull out of I don't know, I called a mini slump a little bit. Again, these conversations about quarterbacks they can be really complicated, but we're talking about an interception against Rutgers, 3 against Indiana, an interception against Ohio State, an interception against UCLA. That's 6 interceptions in the last 4 games, Sean. 6 interceptions in the last 4 games.
To 1 touchdown pass.
It's definitely, you don't put this all on Dylan. Obviously, we discussed the things that aren't going right. There's a lot in the offense that he doesn't really have much control over. So now, why are all eyes on him? First of all, how's he come back from the injury, which was a back injury, a hit that he incurred against UCLA? That was in the second half against UCLA. Got hit between the pads, right?
Well, he tried to basically
run the ball,
run through 3 people,
right? and got hammered. And I think the hit got between his pads, hip back. But he's okay.
It was a gruesome play.
Yeah, and I've been hearing that he was fine. There was never really a big question that he was going to play this week.
Took advantage of the bye week.
Yeah, and he missed some. I think he missed some practice. I think he missed some practice time in a bye week.
They practiced Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and the veterans didn't get a lot of practice time last week. I think
right.
They gave a lot of veterans some downtime to rest.
So all eyes on Dylan because he's got a new coordinator, a new coach who's coached quarterbacks and offenses at a high level. I think Dylan. I think he loves this move. I don't think there's any.
And look, they like Sat.
Oh, yeah. The royal families definitely support Sat. But this is, come on. I mean, we don't need to work hard to sell why this change might work well. We don't have to work hard to sell Dana Holgorsen. His resume speaks for itself. This could be very good for Dylan.
Look, this is a big time program with big time commitments to their head coach, to their quarterback. You need a big time commitment to the offensive coordinator, and that's what this is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what this is. Like,
yeah.
You don't go big on the head coach, big on the quarterback, big on everything else, and not have an elite play caller to go with it all.
Yes, I know, but they didn't have one. They did,
and that's a better question. Like, why? What was the holdup?
Right.
Like,
and why? And some people are going to look at us and say, "Well, why weren't you guys saying that?" Out of the gate, why weren't you?
Well, and Satterfield came from South Carolina, so
right.
I mean, he was he was with Spencer Rattler, but some will say that it wasn't going well for him there either.
No, he's never had an offense in the top 40. Satterfield, and now the way just so I'm very transparent to our listeners and our readers, I just kind of rationalized it this way. Maybe Rule sees something in Satterfield and Satterfield's evolution as a coach, that in his late 40s, early 50s, maybe Matt thought Satterfield would hit his stride. That's what I thought, because if you looked at his resume, there wasn't much there. I mean, it just wasn't. He's never had a top 40 offense in his career. So I just figured Matt kind of knew something and thought this is why it will work. But Sean, it never really worked.
Yeah. If you're trying to find a high point, I mean,
what was
it? First half of Colorado, 28 points. I mean, that was all right.
This looked all right.
This looks good, know. And I thought
first half against Illinois.
I thought first half against Illinois, there were moments where you're like, okay. Even the first half against Rutgers. I mean, they did a lot in that half, but
yeah, not a lot.
Collectively over 4 quarters, it's hard to find a lot of things to hang your hat on.
No, and there's just a lot of breakdowns. And as I said earlier, now see, it gets complicated in all these discussions because some of it, what do you do if you don't run the inside zone well and you don't run outside zone well and your receivers don't get off the line of scrimmage? Now people are yelling right now and saying, well, we'll change personnel. Who do you change personnel to at wide out? Where are you going?
And this whole I don't know why this always grinding my gears. People are there red shirt guys you're sitting on right now that could come play now that will help you on offense?
Why does it grind your gears, Sean?
Just because if they could help you, they'd be playing.
Right.
Like I just wins. This whole notion that I won't even name names because it's not fair to kids.
Right.
But like this player, that player who's red shirting, we're going to plug him in and it's going to change the whole offense. Like now a year ago, they were in a position with injuries where they had to do it, where they had to play Malachi Coleman, where they had to play Jalen Lloyd, where they had to play Jaden Doss. That was because that's all they had.
Right. So it's different now. So you're just, I think their best guys are out there. That's what they are. I mean, it's not that you're just not getting enough from some, not all.
Well,
you're just not getting enough from some of your guys.
Jamal Banks and Isaiah Naor are their highest paid, probably NIL guys at receiver, and they need more production from them.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with saying that.
And they would say that. And
their numbers aren't what you expect,
especially over the last 5 games.
Right.
And as they've gone, the passing game is gone. And you can't just live on this steady diet of underneath throws to Ja'Cory Barney.
Nope.
And Thomas Finoni.
Ja'Cory Barney has 38 catches, but it's only 8 yards a catch,
Yeah, it's just little dinks.
Right. and they're not getting many downfield throws against man coverage. We talked about the safeties being high. We talked about them not handling press coverage very well. You got to get guys who can beat man coverage, Sean.
And this is an extreme example, but if they had a Samori Toure or a Trey Palmer that could give them a deep ball, it would give this offense so much more.
Especially Palmer, but Toure averaged. Look back.
Look what he did against Ohio State.
Toure, look back, but I think he averaged 17 point. Okay, Chicken, get ready. I think it was 17.6 a catch. 17.6. It was 17. I'm pretty sure. I'll look after the show.
Hell, Brandon Riley would look like Randy Moss right now at times.
A little.
He's fast.
Yeah.
Jordan Westerkamp would be.
Oh, Westerkamp was a bear for teams.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Like, you just think about some of the receivers that have been here in the last 10 years.
What coordinator did I talk to?
We're not even talking Kenny Bella or Nunwa or some of the really good ones.
I talked to a coordinator the other day from another team, and he said Westerkamp was a huge pain in the ass. He was so smart. He knew what to do.
Great college player.
Right.
Couldn't play in the pros because of special teams. Like, at that position, you got to run down and tackle and cover kicks and punts or return. And he just maybe didn't have enough of the full package to make a 53-man pro roster.
Yeah, guys like Maurice Purify and Kenny Bell would look so good on this team. They need them. That's the kind of guys they need.
Alonzo Moore would look good right now.
So have he got off?
He played in the NFL.
Yeah.
He played in the league on rosters.
Did he, Alonzo?
Yes.
Okay.
Played for the Chiefs for a while. Even.
I think.
I'm right. Don't question me.
So I'm sorry. They got So they. I'm just giving. And now maybe that's okay. Maybe the guys, maybe they turn it on in these last 3 games.
All right, before we take it to headline number 3, HuskerOnline Headlines brought to you by Ellerbrock-Norris. They've been helping Nebraska business owners protect their purpose for over 120 years with risk management solutions built for local businesses. Ellerbrock-Norris partners with you on commercial insurance, group benefits, business exit planning, safety, and more. Start thinking long-term with your business and create a risk management strategy to protect it. Are your employee benefit costs going to the roof? Talk to Ellerbrock. Are workplace injuries skyrocketing your workers' compensation costs? Talk to Ellerbrock. Hoping to retire in the next 10 years and sell the business to family, key employees, or a friendly competitor? Talk to Ellerbrock. Ellerbrock-Norris is helping you protect your purpose, whether it's your business and the employees in it, your life outside of work, or your future retirement goals. Head to Ellerbrock-Norris.com/HuskerOnline today to get your free risk evaluation. Thank you to Ellerbrock-Norris for sponsoring us here on HuskerOnline Headlines. All right, headline number 3. Which version of the Nebraska defense will show up at the LA Coliseum? Will it be the defense that we saw that held Ohio State to just 1 third down conversion? It was a QB sneak where there was actually a false start not called. Or will it be the defense that was against UCLA, where the Bruins, I believe, had 4 first down conversions on their first 4 third downs in the game?
Well, they're 5 for 6 at halftime. UCLA third down conversions 5 for 6 at halftime. Yeah.
Big difference, though.
What will we see? It's going to be a big challenge, because what we will see for sure, speed on the perimeter against USC. Hey, Sean, you know what the name of the game is in this Saturday for Nebraska? It's always kind of the name of the game, but it's more pronounced against some teams than others. You better tackle in the open field, or they're going to get a lot of chunk plays.
Well, Woody Marks at running back is also a bear.
5.8 per carry for Woody Marks.
155 carries for 878.
That's 5.8, I think.
That's good production right there. He's a 1,000-yard back.
5.8 per carry, and he's got 260 receiving yards. Now, we're not going to make him Barry Sanders, Sean. I've watched him play.
He came from Mississippi State.
Yeah, and he didn't do a lot at Mississippi State. Ran for 573 last year, right? Is that right? Did I get that number right?
573 there.
Bam.
Rain Man.
Yeah. I've watched him twice. He's good. He's scary. He's pretty scary, actually. He's not, I don't know, Sean, he's probably the 5th or 6th best running back in the Big Ten. That's good. The receivers scare me more.
They got 3 guys with over 30 catches.
Yeah, and it's just what you'd expect from a team from LA. They're fast. Some of them are Zachariah Branch, not very big. Some of them Deuce Robinson, Jacoby Lane, long striders. They got a variety of guys.
Mekhi Lemon.
Yeah, Mekhi Lemon's got 3 touchdown catches.
He's their probably their best deep threat.
Okay.
lemon. But
So yeah, listen, when you see him, and now we'll talk about Jaden Maven in a second, but when you see him, you're going to say, "Oh God, look at him." It's got to be hard for the This is a tough game for the defense. Can Nebraska hold? Can they hold USC, Sean, to 28 points?
the key is turnovers with Maeva. Jaden Maeva at UNLV had 24 turnover-worthy plays. Either plays that resulted in turnovers or that could have been. So he puts himself in high-risk situations. He threw 5 picks last year under pressure to compare to 1 touchdown pass. So I think for Nebraska, can they rattle Maeva and get enough heat on him to force some mistakes? Because I think that is the way they win this game. Jaden Maeva is turnover prone.
I agree.
In his history.
Right.
He's fumbled a lot too. Like he holds the ball with one hand like a loaf of bread.
He does.
And Nebraska has to figure out a way to capitalize on that.
Right. What makes him scary is it's the old issue that any defensive coordinator at the college level will tell you. He's a throw first quarterback, but he runs it well. He's not a blazer though. It's not.
And you're not going to be able to bring him down with one arm.
No, he's sick. He's like Dylan's size.
6'4", 227.
Yeah, that's like Dylan's size. So there he is. I'm not expecting a world beater here. I think he was a backup for a reason. Now they went away from Miller Moss because turnover issues. He threw 3 picks against Washington. Had his touchdown to interception ratio wasn't what they wanted. So here we go. We'll see what it looks like. But I think you could make a case that he's a huge reason why USC can win this game. But you can also make a case that, hey, this is good for Nebraska. This is a guy that you don't quite know about. He hasn't been under this kind of stress.
I think for Nebraska, can they win their one-on-one blocks up front? Because when this defense, like when Jamari Butler and MJ Sherman and Hutmacher and Robinson are winning up front,
not getting pushed out,
they can play with anybody.
Yeah,
we saw them rattle Ohio State. Them. I mean, they did to the point where Ohio State was committing blatant holding penalties. They weren't called to try to slow Nebraska down.
God, if they play like they did against Ohio State, you'd feel really good about. See, that's the thing you don't know. If they play like they did against Ohio State, you feel really good, but they didn't play like that against UCLA on their home field. They didn't. Nebraska didn't show up like they did against Ohio State for whatever reason. So you can't really trust them. And I didn't think I'd be saying that about Tony White's defense. 56-7, that kind of loss erodes trust.
Right? The UCLA game, even they weren't winning up front at all early.
No, they weren't.
And
they weren't.
There was no pressure. But I think we've learned UCLA is. I mean, head to head, I'm taking UCLA over Illinois right now.
Yeah, you can make that case.
I mean, of Nebraska's 4 losses, I mean, of the teams they lost to, I mean, I think UCLA would beat Illinois.
Well, it was an eye opener the way they handled Iowa.
I mean,
UCLA
and Iowa had 25,000 fans out there. They had half the stadium. It wasn't like a road game.
UCLA, the West Coast team, out physicaled Iowa. That was the storyline. They ran it at Iowa and they stopped the run. And that, I don't know. I mean, let's just put it this way. Huge flex by Deshaun Foster. Huge flex.
And there's a chance that UCLA could run the table. They play Washington, USC, and Fresno. Mm-hmm. That's their final 3 games.
So but I'm still putting that down as a bad loss for Nebraska.
It is a bad loss.
Yeah. Even though UCLA's playing better, and we were told that. We were told by Matt Rule.
The first half was inexcusable.
We were told by Matt Rule that UCLA's playing its best football. He saw it. They're playing their best football.
14 and a half of the first 16 minutes, they held the ball. I've never seen that in my life before.
You were angry?
Because it was ridiculous.
You were angry.
How do you let somebody hold the ball for 14 and a half of the first 16 minutes of the game?
On your home field with all that on the line.
I mean, that's how you get 86,000 people just to not pay. I mean, the game, you lost the crowd at that point.
Matt Rule hired Dana Holgorsen, and the crowd's back.
They're back. They came out this week. We had big numbers. All right. Before we go to headline number 4, what's that hat you're wearing there, Stephen M. Sipple?
You tell me.
Vintage Custom Homes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to set this up here.
I know I didn't cooperate.
But
Vintage Custom Homes. It's a Regal hat.
And they've been on with us all season. First class Omaha builder, but they don't build just in the Omaha area. They build in Council Bluffs, Iowa, North Platte, Arnold, Nebraska. And they also don't just do homes. They'll build. Do you know what a barn dominium is, Sipple?
I mean, I can kind of reason it out.
You have land and you just make a really nice man cave cabin.
Yeah. A little getaway spot.
They build barn dominiums.
That's a good idea.
Pool houses.
Yeah.
Larger models.
Pool houses.
Anything. And not just full home builds. So, and look at the pictures. They do great work at Vintage Custom Homes. Give them a call at vintagecustomhomesne.com. Obviously, we've seen the markets, the economy take a real big shift in the positive direction in the last few weeks. And I think the thought is home building and things like that are going to really pick up here, especially in 2025. So now's the time. Set up that meeting with Vintage Custom Homes. Go on their website. Get a chance to talk to them about what you want to do, because maybe when the springtime comes around, you can start going right away on that project. You might still have time to get the project going right now while we're still warm. So check them out. We're proud to have Vintage Custom Homes as a sponsor here on Husker Online Headlines. All right, headline number 4, Nebraska fans love West Coast trips, and we've seen it, Sip. I think I'm trying to think. You wouldn't have been at UCLA in 93 or 94, right?
Nope.
Okay.
That was right before I started covering.
But I go through all the West Coast trips. 01 Rose Bowl.
Okay.
60,000 Nebraska fans.
Yeah. Oh, 60,000.
It was.
Yeah. That's incredible.
06 USC game, 25,000.
Yep.
The 2011
UCLA.
2010 Washington.
Oh, Washington. Yeah.
I'm saying West Coast.
Yeah.
25,000 Nebraska fans.
Tons. Oh God. Remember that at Washington?
They drank out every bar in downtown Seattle ran out of beer almost.
Really?
They weren't ready for it.
It was an amazing scene at that stadium. It was
in Washington.
Yeah.
Then you go 2012 UCLA.
Yep.
Complete
tough game. Though.
Complete takeover.
Yeah. Complete takeover. Tough game.
They lost. They blew it at the end. Jim Mora team.
Yep.
Then you go down the road, 2014 Fresno State.
Oh God. What a list of games.
I mean, amazing. Just a complete takeover of Nebraska fans out there. And
we're going to see it. We're going to see it.
And then 2017 Oregon.
Yep.
Even I think of all those,
not a takeover there though.
Oh no. The Oregon game, they had more people than I've ever seen from an opposing. 20,000 fans in that stadium.
Nebraska?
Yes. I don't know if Megan can go back and find Nebraska Oregon pick.
Am I just unaware of my surroundings?
My wife went on that trip. That's like that. She's never in. It was Husker fans everywhere. That was amazing.
They got into Autzen.
Oh yeah, they took it over. And I don't know if there's.
Oh, I don't know. No. Take over a little bit. That's a little stretch.
No, for an opposing team in Autzen Stadium, they did what no one's done. So what I'm saying is, I think the thought is we're going to see a lot of red at this game in USC. We saw it actually with Iowa when they played at UCLA on Friday night. Half of the Rose Bowl, it was only 60-some thousand fans, maybe, was Iowa fans.
Yeah. I think you're going to see, Sean, can we see half the fans, Nebraska fans?
No, they've tinkered the capacity of the Coliseum. It's under 80,000 now.
But could you see, they're not going to get 80,000.
No.
Could you see 25,000 Nebraska fans and 25,000 USC fans?
I think we'll see in the 60s in the stadium.
Okay.
And I bet 25 will be Nebraska, or 20.
So 25.
So here's the Coliseum now. And when we went out there, Sip, in the 06 game.
Yeah, it was electric.
And
it was a different deal.
Pete Carroll. I mean, it was a big time.
John David Booty. They had a big time receiver whose name escapes me.
Steve Slayton.
A taller guy from Jersey. Actually, I remember.
Yeah, because we interviewed Lane. We did another show back then called the Husker Beat. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And we had Lane Kiffin on our show
because he was
the OC. And Lane Kiffin.
Why did he come on our show?
You got him on somehow. Yeah. He came on our show at a sports bar in Omaha on the phone.
He did great too.
And he called out his player, I remember, and you ended up like writing it, and then it like picked up headlines.
That's right. That's right. I don't know how I got mixed up with Lane back then. It was I don't know. I don't want to get into it. I think I do know, but anyway, it's such a long time ago. The particulars escape me. But anyway, the big thing is now a lot of people are going out that way, but a lot of people are already there. I mean, there's a lot of people in the Phoenix area, in the LA area, in the Southern California area. They're already there.
Like we both speak at Holy Ghost. There was a big tour group set up to go and run through South Omaha, where they're going to have like 100 people go out, and there's a lot of that. And you'll see fans that are from Phoenix, Vegas,
right, that's what I was saying,
all over California.
Right.
They'll all go to this game. This is their home game.
Right. So it'll be, So it's interesting. Think about it. Nebraska's struggling, but these fans are still, there's so much passion and energy that got to help. I got to think.
And that's what makes Nebraska. How many other teams, and not just in the country, in the world, can travel 20,000 fans?
Not too many.
With none that have been on the losing skid Nebraska has.
Yeah.
I mean, and look, I get it. Like the Dallas Cowboys and the Packers. And,
they do.
Like those types, the Pittsburgh Steelers,
they
the 49ers. Like,
I watch those Cowboy games, and the fans stay in the stands the whole game.
Well, like 49ers fans, will go to road games because it's easier to get road tickets.
I got to get again. I've seen the Cowboys games this year where they're getting blown out, and it looks like fans are staying. Maybe I don't see the ones that
but for the population of Nebraska, under 2 million, to do this, it's remarkable, and that's why we're all here,
right? And let's face it. Let's hope it helps Nebraska.
And I hope these players understand and recognize that there's going to be 20,000 fans in that stadium that still believe in you. And
they'll be loud,
and they can make themselves a factor.
Yeah.
And that's what they have to do. I mean, they have to do something early to be a factor in this game.
But gosh, the fact that the fans could be a factor it says a lot. And that's what you hope, especially on defense. I mean, that sort of emotion is usually more beneficial to a defense. And it could help set the tone for Tony White's group, who has a big job here. That USC's not, their main issue is defense. Now Miller Moss got benched, but I think when you'll know what I'm talking about when you see them in warmups. You're going to say, wow, look at those wideouts. And you talked about Woody Marks. They're a good offense.
Yeah, Lincoln Riley is always going to have a good offense. If he doesn't, he's in trouble.
Strange. It'd be weird.
It's like he can't. He's always going to be good.
4-5 and 2-5. Sean, is that the most disappointing team in the Big Ten right now?
With losses to Maryland, Minnesota, Penn State, Michigan, and then who's their fifth? Oregon?
I don't know. Here it is.
So they've lost to Michigan. They beat Wisconsin. They lost to Minnesota. They lost to Penn State. They lost to Maryland. They beat Rutgers. They lost to Washington.
Right. Now, I watched they beat LSU. And I wrongly said, watch this USC team. They're really good. Beat LSU in the open.
And they shut out Utah State the next week.
And then, see, this is the thing about them. I'm glad you pulled the schedule up. Thank you, Megan. LSU win was excellent. Then at Michigan, they should have won the game. Sean, I watched the entire game. They were excellent in the second half. USC was excellent. They're not good in the first half, but then there were evidently major adjustments made because they won the second half. It was pretty evident. But then what happened? The safety didn't wrap up the running back for Michigan, and he got loose. Mullins. That's it. You got it. He got loose, and they lost.
Yeah, it was a routine run.
Yeah, just the guy had him in his arms. If he stops him, Michigan's not winning that game.
Well, and I watched their whole Penn State game, and all they had to do was get a fourth down stop, and the game went to overtime.
Right, they're good.
Penn State had to score a touchdown in regulation, and they had 2 fourth down conversions, like 4th and 8, 4th and 10, that they had to convert, and they got them, and then they sent it to overtime,
right,
and then in USC lost in overtime. So it's a very deceiving team.
Very deceiving 4-5. You're right.
They could beat it. Like, they could step on the field and play with anybody in the country.
I think so.
Could they beat anybody? No, but they're going to make it a game with about anybody.
Yeah, they can.
And they've done that. I mean, they took Penn State to the wire, who's a playoff team right now. I mean,
Penn State's number 4 in the college playoff rankings. Number 4.
They hammered Wisconsin pretty good.
Right. Yeah.
To the point where, I mean, at that point, people were like trying to fire Luke Fickell after that game.
No, this Nebraska's got its hands full.
So no matter what their record is, this is going to be an extremely tough game. All right, let's take it to before we go to headline number 5, Stephen M. Sipple. We're brought to you by who?
Oh, Sean, Larson Motors. Let me pull this up though.
Caught you with your guard down there.
Not completely.
I set you up. What's your hat say? And you had a look.
Yeah, I'm usually more together than this. No, Larson Motors, Sean. If you're looking for a new vehicle, go for a new experience in Nebraska City. Yeah, we talk about this all the time. Larson Motors, Larson with an O. It's one of the only Midwest only dealerships with all the major brands in one location. Go to that location. Finding your new Chevrolet, GMC, Hummer, Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram never has been easier. Start that new experience today at LarsonMotorGroup.com or at Larson Motors in gorgeous Nebraska City. What a day it would be to go there. Larson Motors, real people,
real deals.
All right, we got that.
Good job.
Thank
you rebounded there, Sip.
All
right, odds and ends, headline 5. Let's start out with Dawson Merritt.
Okay.
Not official yet, but it appears that Nebraska is on the verge of flipping Overland Park Blue Valley linebacker Dawson Merritt from Alabama to Nebraska. His father works for the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the top players in the city of Kansas City, and both sides of it. Wow. Would be a huge victory for Nebraska, and give Nebraska credit on this one. They have not backed off Dawson Merritt. He committed to Alabama on June 26th, and they have stayed on him the entire time.
Sounds like he could play inside or outside. He'd be a cornerstone of this class, of the 2025 class. And there's still some other guys in play that would qualify as cornerstone type players, right? Michael Terry, Cortez
Mills is still a name to watch.
So, but this is big. This would be, if this comes to fruition, like you think, like we think, cornerstone player in the class. This is the kind of guys that get you over the top. That's what you're looking for. Guys that get you over the top. And probably Nebraska needs a few more of them.
And let's not kid ourselves here. NIL is a factor.
Of course it is.
I mean, you have to be competitive to get a player like this.
Yeah. How would you characterize Matt Rule's philosophy in that regard? He's not a freewheeler.
No, they're not going to overpay just to get any player
right
with the collective, but I think they understand the market of what it takes to get the good players. And if it's a good player that they know they want, you have to be there. Otherwise, you're going to lose the player.
Okay, now I'm asking you questions that I don't know.
Great.
I mean, this Rule, how heavily involved is a head coach in those sort of...
I mean, guys, it's limited what they can say and do right now. The head coach is technically not supposed to be involved in that stuff, but it will change with these new rules and the revenue sharing and other things. And
technically is the key word in that discussion, by the way. Technically, they're not supposed to be
involved. Not, yeah. I'm not going to say they're involved because they're not supposed to be. I mean,
and now we're talking in general. But I just think prudent is the word I would attach to Matt Rule. Prudent.
And this is not a deal where Alabama dropped him. Like, they didn't want to lose.
People ask that.
They did not want to lose him. I talked to Tim Watts, who knows Alabama.
Tim Watts
from Bama Online knows Alabama recruiting as well as anybody. And he said, "Oh yeah, they wanted him." I mean, this
is a good get. If it happens, which could today probably,
possibly, yeah.
Today's Thursday, by the way.
Today, I think this week for sure. But other odds and ends, big noon kickoff has been a hot button. The Ohio State Buckeyes have lived in the big noon window 6 straight big noon kickoffs, and the natives in Columbus are restless.
Well, you got to ask yourself, is that good for college football? And all you got to do is imagine Nebraska being at the level of Ohio State and the fan base's reaction here if there were 6 straight big noon kickoffs. I think there would be some people that would say, well, God, bring it on. I mean, because it means we're back. But that's overdoing it. That's overdoing it.
Well, it's early, it's cold in the mornings, and you got to get to the stadiums at like 8 and 7. I mean, it's okay every once in a while, but 6 in a row would grind. I mean, think about how early for 11 a.m. game here you have to get going to start your day.
Yeah. But the thing is, and you know the TV stuff as well as anybody I know, Fox owns that time slot. That time slot has produced huge numbers. How about Ohio State versus Penn State? I can do this off the top of my head. 9.4 million. Okay. How about Ohio State? Now, this wasn't big noon. The biggest, the most watched game of the season, Ohio State, Oregon, 10.4 million. 10.4 million. Now, Ohio State pulls big numbers. That's what this is about. Ohio State pulls huge numbers. It's also about if Michigan weren't so bad, Michigan would have a couple big noons, right?
Yeah, and here's the deal. Like, if
can't play Oregon at big noon.
If Fox has the number one pick, it's their job to take the game that's going to get the most viewers.
Yeah. And, so you keep taking Ohio State.
I think that would be the one complaint fans probably have is like, why does Fox get so many more number one? Well, they pay the most money, but I think fans would like to see CBS. Like for years, the 2:30 CBS window was the number one SEC window.
Yeah.
Where now, you don't always get an elite game at 2:30. It's usually a good game.
Yeah.
But like Penn State, Minnesota is a 2:30 CBS.
But you certainly understand why Fox takes Ohio State.
Where I think there's a lot of fans that believe the 6:30 NBC window on some weekends would be the most desired time to play a big game. And that doesn't always work out that way.
No, because of the way the television contracts are structured that leads to this. Now, I mean, if you're Fox, you point to the ratings is what you do. You say, look at the ratings we have it on Big Noon. For these particularly for Ohio State, they're just gigantic numbers. In fact, they're the best ratings of all the Fox Noon kickoffs.
Well, they would argue back though, because you have the least competition.
Right. That's true.
But ABC has started to put games in at 11 that are good games to try to cut into it. Because they don't want Fox just to run away with the 11 a.m. window.
Yeah, it's a pretty, I would call it an extraordinary development that Ohio State will have had 6 straight Big Noon.
Because you'll have at 11 a.m. or noon Eastern, you have an ABC game a lot of times at 11, and then maybe an ESPN game, which could be a decent game as well. And that's it. CBS is not on at 11. NBC is not on at 11. So you have the least competition for Fox at that point, where 2:30 has a ton of competition.
So people are wondering why we even talk about this, because they announced Ohio State, Indiana will be at noon.
Where on the flip side, if you're a Husker fan, you got to love the home schedule this year. Nebraska will not play one 11 a.m. home game. Not one.
Good. That's good.
I mean,
That's good.
I do think 2:30 is the universal best time for a game, especially in the fall. Like early in the season, night games are good. But like October, November, you can't beat 2:30.
You're talking about from a fan's perspective.
Yeah. And a media.
Well, it's all these discussions are always sort of complicated because who we talking, who's it best for, the media, the fans, or the team? I don't know.
Well, I think it's best for everybody. 2:30.
Do you think so?
Because it's not too early and allows everybody to get here, and it doesn't get over too late.
Yeah, kids don't have to sit around all day waiting for the kickoff.
No,
I've heard Urban Meyer say he loved the night kickoffs at Ohio State. That because of, and this because you've been there, that stadium, virtually every stadium is better at night. It's just that some are better than others. You've been at Ohio State. Wow. What a difference from night game to day game.
Well, and we've seen like Nebraska when they knocked off Michigan State, that was a night game.
Yeah.
And the stadium kind of rose up and helped them win that game.
Michigan State.
The 2015 game.
Yeah, Daniel Cherney also helped them the last time they were there.
I'm talking about in Lincoln.
Oh.
The game where Mike Riley won.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Michigan State's crowd.
No, the Big Ten champion Michigan State Spartans that played in Lincoln, that played in the college football playoff, and Nebraska beat them at night with a bad team.
Yeah, with a bad call too. But that
on the Riley call?
Yeah.
Well, he got pushed.
Okay. God bless you.
Brandon's going to come at you, man. All right, let's stick it on odds and ends around the Big Ten as well. Obviously, Friday night, UCLA, Washington, big game to kind of see if Deshaun Foster and the Bruins can keep it rolling.
Who is that?
UCLA, Washington, Friday night.
Huge game.
Washington's a 4-point favorite.
God,
the Bruins are kind of a Friday night team. They play a lot of Friday night games.
That's true.
Ohio State, Northwestern, huge line on the road. Ohio State's 28.5-point favorite. Michigan State is at Illinois. Illini are a 3-point favorite. Penn State at Purdue, huge favorite. Nittany Lions, 28.5. Nebraska, 9-point dog at USC. Rutgers, Maryland. Maryland's a 6-point favorite. That surprises me a little bit. I think Rutgers can win that game.
Okay.
They just beat Minnesota. And then kind of the sneakier under the radar game is Oregon in Madison at night.
It's a pretty good game. Oregon's got to be careful.
Now, is this deer hunting weekend, though, in Wisconsin?
Probably.
We've been there before in deer hunting weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look that up.
Wisconsin's got an interesting thing going right now because there's some fans in that fan base that are all in on Fickle, and there's probably half the fan base that longs for the Christ Jim Leonard.
Next week is deer hunting.
Okay, next week. So they'll have a crowd there. It'll be big. That's a big game. But it's a kind of a light week.
It's a 7 or it's a 8. It's like an 8-day. It's November 23rd to December 1st deer hunting in Wisconsin. And we've lived that now a few times. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how few people come to those games compared to normal.
Yeah, it is. But that won't be the case in this one. I don't know how jacked up that fan base is right now.
Because Oregon has the opportunity to go in there and hammer them. And I do think that's good for Nebraska a week later in Lincoln.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
I mean, I think the timing is good. Like you hope that, or if you're Nebraska, you want Oregon just to hammer Wisconsin.
Yeah, you do. I think you do. It's hard to tell sometimes.
But Wisconsin then closes with Nebraska and Minnesota. So they could lose out and not make a bowl.
It's very similar to what Nebraska did in 2003, what's happening there at Wisconsin. They changed their way of life, and it's not working right now. Doesn't mean it won't work, but that fan base is divided. I know that.
All right, we're heading out to L.A. tomorrow. Where are we eating, Sip?
We're eating at Mastro's in Beverly Hills. I'll be a little out of context. You and Rob will fit in probably.
Thank you, Chancellor.
You'll be fine. I'll be looking forward to it. I probably think it's seafood right now.
You're going to go seafood at Mastro's Steakhouse.
Well, I'm sure the seafood's excellent.
And we're just staying by LAX, mainly because we're only there for the game. We're not there to screw around.
Well, we don't have time to screw around, really. Not a lot of time.
No, it's eat dinner Friday night, go to a football game. Mm-hmm. If we're lucky, we'll go to like In-N-Out Burger on Saturday night or something and go to the airport on Sunday.
Yeah. What time's our flight on Sunday?
I think it's like 10 a.m. or
not draconian.
No, we get back to Lincoln at 4.
Okay.
It might be 8. It might be 8. The time zones will throw me off. I just know we get back to Lincoln at 4.
Okay.
Fun. So should be a good game. We will have Husker Online post-game live as well. Game should end Saturday around 6:30
Central.
And we'll be on 8:30 to 9 o'clock for post-game live in that range. It just depends on the length of the game, but Robin, Sip, and I will all be out there and looking forward to talking to you after the game. Hopefully we're talking about a Husker win.
God.
And remember, if you're not a member of Husker Online, try us out. You can get your first 7 days for $1 to Husker Online. Then you can lock in for 50% off. But the promo code is NU1. Use that promo code NU1 to get the first 7 days for $1. And then you can lock in for your full year at half off to try us out at Husker Online. For Steve Sipple, I'm Sean Callahan signing off for Husker Online Headlines.